Welcome to Thinking Through the Darkness, a Lore by Spec podcast, with me, your host, Spec. This is a podcast where we talk through all of the pre-production that goes into making the theories that you see on the Lore by Spec channel and its associated channels. Let's get the shilling out of the way first. If you haven't gone and subscribed and liked and commented on the videos on Lore by Spec on the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that now. That's one of the best ways that you can support me. This podcast is also available anywhere that you can find podcasts. So if you are listening, if you could like the podcast and maybe leave a little review, that does wonders for the algorithm on the podcast side, which really helps. And if you want to help support this podcast, this is the only one that currently doesn't use free tools. And since it's a paid thing, if you have the means to contribute to this, the link for this is in my description for my Ko-Fi. This helps me keep the light on and pay for all of the things that go into making this podcast a quality project. So today we're going to be doing more of an exploratory podcast today. I'm going to be doing what I sometimes do before I start a podcast, because normally when I start these things, I already know what I'm going to talk about or what's going to kind of formulate, and I'm just talking through it. Today is going to be slightly different, because I'm going to be working on the triangle that exists between Ventus, Vanitas, and Roxas, and trying to see if there's going to be a theory that we can form from it. I'm going to be basing all of this from the character files, so a lot of this podcast is going to be me reading stuff aloud, me talking things through, stuff that's actually written in the book. So if that's not your scene, I'll see you next week, okay? But if it is, and you want a super raw take on what this theory could end up pointing to be, then I hope you stick around. So, we'll start with Ventus's entry. Ventus, the boy connected to Sora who has no darkness within him. Ventus is training under Ericus with the goal of becoming a Keyblade master, but Xehanort's scheme causes him to fall into a long sleep. This is the label for weirdly Kingdom Hearts. Why would that be under Kingdom Hearts 3? That's weird. Okay, and then we have entry for Union Cross. Ventus was a Keyblade wielder in the age of fairy tales long before he met Terra and Aqua. So we do know that this is absolutely the same Ven that got yeeted forward in time. He was once a Union leader too. Tips: the armor protects Sora's heart too. Ventus's armor is meant to protect his own heart, but also protects Sora when he falls into the abyss of darkness. Okay. Interesting. We'll do his record first, and then we'll do the story that goes with it, because that seems like it makes the most sense. Also, I have a cold, or the start of a cold, so if you hear me coughing and spluttering, that is, or that I sound a little croaky, that is why. Record of Ventus's journey. Are we being suspected of something? Ventus is chosen by Master Ava to be a Union leader, but it's later discovered that the one who was actually chosen was Sterliza, and Ventus's name was never on the list. Please don't do this, Master, I'm not strong enough. Ventus was a pupil of Master Xehanort, but Xehanort becomes exasperated by Ventus's inability to awaken the power of darkness, so he extracts darkness from the boy's heart himself. Because of this, Ventus's heart is fractured, but he's saved when his heart connects with a newborn Sora. After he loses his memory, Ventus is left in the care of Ericus and becomes a pupil. He develops a bond with the pupils who are senior to him, Aqua and Terra. Ventus suddenly appears and stokes anxiety. Vanitas suddenly appears and stokes anxiety within Ventus. Ventus then goes after Terra who was left for a mission. After meeting Vanitas again, Ventus almost loses his battle with him, but King Mickey saves him. Now that Ventus has left the land of departure, he makes friends with Mickey, and then Lee, who he meets in Radiant Garden. Ventus meets Master Xehanort again. The man tells him that he's to become the X-Blade, and he also explains the reason why Ventus was never allowed to leave the land of departure. Furthermore, Xehanort urges him to ask Ericus about the truth. When Ericus is about to seal him in the land of departure, Terra saves him and sends him to Destiny Islands. Due to Vanitas' battle with Vanitas at the Keyblade graveyard, the X-Blade is formed. Ventus defeats Vanitas in the Soul World, which both destroys the Keyblade and breaks his own heart. He is saved when Sora catches his broken heart. Ventus's armor covers and protects Sora when he's falling into darkness, but the armor is stained jet black, and it battles Riku in the realm of darkness. Ventus and Terra appear before Aqua as a vision, but Ventus is unable to speak because he's still asleep. After she's rescued from the realm of darkness, Aqua visits the sealed land of departure, brackets Castle Oblivion, and Ventus wakes up at last. In the Keyblade graveyard, he thinks Terra Xehanort is Terra, and is delighted to see him again, but the man attacks him with his Keyblade. Later in the world where time has been rewound, Lingering Will thwarts Terra Xehanort's attack. Ventus defeats Vanitas in the Skein of Severance. Vanitas states that he's Ventus's missing piece, and that he, Ventus, and Sora are brothers who together make a greater whole. Then Vanitas disappears. Although Ventus calls out to Terra, who's within Terra Xehanort, Ventus and Aqua are grabbed by chains. They're about to be thrown to the earth when the Dark Fissure saves them. With Sora's help, Terra gets his body back, and Ventus reunites with him at last. When Sora defeats Master Xehanort, Ericus' heart appears from within Terra. Ventus, Aqua, and Terra watches Ericus as he disappears from sight. Curiosity, who is brought out of the final world by Sora, meets Ventus in the land of departure, and Ventus hugs Curiosity tight. Okay. So none of that is new. So let's get into the interesting kind of snippet, which is Ventus' story. These kind of act as journal entries, kind of treat them like secret reports, I guess, is the best way to look at them. So Ventus' story, fragments of the world. I really didn't remember anything. I've been fractured for a long time. It was because of Xehanort and my missing half, Vanitas. I already knew that, and back then I should have remembered a lot of things, but the memories I could recall seemed like they were someone else's, and I didn't really know what to do. Although I had memories before I woke up in front of Aqua and Terra, they're kind of hazy. It was fun being with Aqua and Terra, and I wanted to fight for them, but in the end I fell asleep. Two of them fought for me, and at last I woke up. I had a feeling that when I did, there were still a lot of things I didn't understand. Maybe I still don't really understand even now. But what I know for sure is Aqua and Terra are with me. I know that they protected me. That's why I want to protect them. Not understanding a lot of things is too common for me. I don't even know what I don't understand. God, isn't that relatable? I think maybe some part of me is still fractured. Or maybe I just don't understand. And nothing's missing. Hey, it turns out I don't know that either. Put an end to me. Ultimately, the two of them didn't do that. They didn't end me. That's why I'm standing here now. Back when the Keyblade was formed, it wouldn't have been strange if I disappeared along with Vanitas. I still believe that now. Huh. Maybe my master knew some truth I didn't, but he isn't with us anymore. Terra, then let's have some tea. Aqua smiled. Seeing her say that and smile here in the land of departure made it feel like I'd gone back in time. Back when Aqua baked a cake, Master ate it with relish. Terra made a face at the idea of sweets. I'd stuff myself full of anything if Aqua made it because it was delicious and made me happy. The time we enjoyed then will never return, but from here on out, we have to walk forward. When I look at Terra, he had an awkward smile on his face, just like back then. I'd like to have cake that isn't sugary. Aqua laughed happily in response to Terra's comment. It's been a long time since I've made a galactic caramel pound cake. Aqua laughed just like she did way back then. I think she's really strong. I spoke to Aqua and mentioned the name of the master's favourite pastry. I'd like a strawberry preserve tart. That was the master's favourite and Terra hates it. Aqua chuckled, and then she looked a little sad. Our hearts harboured grief of losing our master, and it probably wouldn't disappear for a while, and whatever part of me had been fractured probably still isn't filled. But now I wasn't alone. I don't want to be alone anymore ever. Let's gaze at the night sky again, the three of us, and look for shooting stars. From now on, we'll always be together. So this is certainly post. This entry is certainly post Kingdom Hearts 3, which is interesting. It's interesting that he's reflecting. Not that he seems to be too keen to do anything about it, mind you, but it does seem like he's reflecting. And that in itself is interesting to me, anyway. That he even wants to reflect. Okay, but not a huge amount to go off at the minute. Okay, so we're moving on to Roxas's entry now. Roxas, Sora's nobody who followed through his connection with his friends back then after reuniting with Sora. Kingdom Hearts 2. Roxas spends a summer vacation just as an ordinary boy in Twilight Town. However, it's a dated version of the town. Although he goes through some troubles, he unites with Sora in the end. 358 over 2. Roxas carries out missions for Organization 13 without knowing who he is, but as he interacts with Xion and Axel, he begins to harbour doubts of his own existence. KH3. Although he merged into Sora, Roxas often shows up in Sora's dreams and other places. He wields a Keyblade in each hand. Remembering Xion causes him to be restored. Remembering Xion causes him to be restored. What? Remembering Xion causes him to be restored. How does that work? He became realized because he remembered. I don't think I have the brain power for that sentence. Because how can you, like, if we draw a parallel to the Maleficent coming back from Union Cross to 2, it was the fairies that gave her form because they remembered her, because they already exist and have the ability to remember. Him remembering Xion would imply that he would have to exist prior. Maybe do they mean, is that maybe a poor translation? Potentially, is that a poor translation? And what they mean is because Sora remembers Xion, he was able to fully form into his own person because those chains connected. Is that maybe what they mean? Because you can't not exist. Like, you can only really be brought back because when you don't have a vessel and stuff, because somebody remembers you. Or there's a connection, which means somebody has to exist. And Roxas does not exist after 2. It's also interesting the order that this is laid out in, because it starts with 2, then 358, then 3. Surely it should be 358, 2, and then 3. That should be the order of events. Not 2, then 358, then 3. Because that doesn't make sense. Okay, I've got a feeling that's going to give me an aneurysm if I try to think about it too hard. Okay. Tip: Sora, Ventus, and Roxas. As Sora's nobody, Roxas is also influenced by Ventus, who dwelled in Sora's heart. That's why he not only looks the way he does, but he also has the ability to wield 2 Keyblades. So it's because of Sora and then that Roxas gets 2 Keyblades? Not his own inherent Keyblade wildiness because I'm gonna give myself a headache. Not because he's nobody and thus is Sora. Okay. Those are 2 paragraphs very close together, giving me a headache. So let's move along. Record of Roxas's journey. When Sora becomes a Heartless, both Roxas and Naminé are born. When he's born as Sora's nobody, he's given the name Roxas, and he becomes number 13 in Organization 13. Roxas cultivates a friendship with Axel and Shion, who both go on missions with him. It becomes a habit for the 3 of them to go to the top of the clock tower in Twilight Town after a mission and eat some sea salt ice cream. Roxas is at cross purposes with Axel, who's hiding Shion's true identity. Further questioning who he is, Roxas leaves the organization. Roxas ends up fighting Shion, who says she has to make him a part of her. After he defeats her, he watches her disappear as tears fall from his eyes. Roxas clashes with Riku, who unleashes the power of darkness and captures him. Roxas has 7 days left of summer vacation. However, this is a dated version of Twilight Town, and Roxas himself has no memories. After coming in contact with Naminé and Axel, Roxas begins to regain his memories. After remembering everything, Roxas meets Sora, who's sleeping in a pod in the innermost part of the haunted mansion. With 1 day left of summer vacation, Roxas merges with Sora. As Axel is disappearing, Roxas temporarily awakens within Sora. Roxas challenges his real self, Sora, to a fight, asking why Diz chose Sora instead of him. In the datascape, he stands in Data Sora's way as Data Roxas after witnessing Sora accept the pain of his heart that Roxas gives him. Roxas shows him the way forward and then merges into him. Lee, also known as Axel, returns to human form and has a dream about the promise he made to his best friend Roxas. Appearing in Sora's dream, Roxas regards himself and Sora to be one and the same. However, Sora refutes him, saying Roxas is Roxas. Smiling at Sora, Roxas gives him his approval and shows his own memories to the other boy. Sora embarks on a journey to regain the power of waking to restore Roxas. However, restoring Roxas requires a body that will be his vessel. Roxas confronts Shion at the skein of Severance. Memories of Roxas, which Shion has absorbed, return to him within Sora, and Roxas's heart is free at last. Roxas, Shion, and Axel go after Xemnas in a coordinated attack, and they take back what connects them, the recursant sigil X that had been affixed to Xemnas. After defeating Sayax, the 3 relish in their reunion. Sora was hanging his head at the door to Kingdom Hearts opening. Sora was hanging his head at the door to Kingdom Hearts opening when Roxas, Ventus, and the others show up to join him. After the battles have ended, Roxas, along with Lee, Shion, Isa, and Heiner's group, eat ice cream at the clock tower of Twilight Town. Okay. So outside of the aneurysm at the beginning, the only other interesting part there is the bit with Remind, where it's specifically like Sora confronts Shion at the skein of Severance, which I don't recall. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean it didn't happen. That just means I don't remember. It's not something that's off the top of my head. So let's get into Roxas's story. It's called I Remember You. There were 7 days left of my summer vacation. On our next day off, let's go to the beach, huh? Just the 3 of us. I remembered someone saying that to me. 3 of us. Who in the world were these 3? I'd forgotten everything. When I stood in front of Sora, I remembered. I thought I remembered everything, but there's actually something I hadn't remembered, something really important. On the way back, I didn't really know anything, and Axel had explained what a summer vacation was. It was on my first day off since I joined the organization, though if I told people like Sora that the organization had vacation days, they would look at me funny. All of a sudden, I was told I had the day off, and I couldn't find anything to do. So I was eating sea salt ice cream at the top of a clock tower. Axel arrived, and together we watched Hayner's group play in front of the plaza. Back then, I didn't know the names of Hayner and the others yet. Are these kids on summer vacation already? Nah, it can't be. It's much too early. Summer vacation? What's that? It's a dream come true. That's what they got the whole month off. When we talked about things like this, it was weird that Axel had memories from when he was human, and I didn't have any. That made me uneasy. Most kids spend time just goofing off with their friends, hanging around with friends is fun. I'd forgotten all that since becoming a nobody, I guess. That probably meant Axel had friends when he was human. I thought Axel was my only friend, but I remembered. At that time, I intended to leave the organization. Your mind's made up? Even Axel's question didn't stop me because I didn't trust him anymore. Why did the Keyblades choose me? I have to know. You can't turn on the organization, you get on their bad side and they'll destroy you. Axel shouted, and I stopped at last. No one would miss me. After saying that, I started walking, but I had no destination. I didn't know where to go, so I ended up at my usual spot at the clock tower. The one who arrived after me was a girl I forgot for a long time. Xian. Roxas, this is him. It's Sora. With her hood removed, I saw Xian wasn't Xian. Her face had changed into someone I'd never seen before. And this person was the one I'd been waiting to meet. You're next, Roxas. I have to make you a part of me too, don't you see? This is why I was created. With her cloak thrown off, Xian was a puppet. I didn't want to fight her, but she attacked me. Roxas, please, end me. As I was fighting, I began to lose what I knew. Who was I fighting? I was rapidly forgetting things that were important to me. Before I knew it, an unfamiliar girl with black hair was collapsing in front of me. Who are you again? It's weird, I feel like I'm forgetting something really important. The girl slowly opened her eyes. You'll be better off now, Roxas. I held her up. Am I the one who did this to you? No, it was my choice. To go away now. Better than to do nothing and let Xemnas have his way. The girl put her hand on mine. Goodbye, Roxas. See you again. A small smile appeared on her face. I'm glad I got to meet you, and of course, Axel too. You were both my best friends. Never forget, that's the truth. In that moment, I remembered Xian. No, Xian. Who else will I have ice cream with? But she was disappearing. Xian. All that remained of her was Tazla shell. Then I wanted to get Xian back, so I fought Riku. I lost all of my memories when I was in Twilight Town, and when I stood before Sora, I thought I remembered, but that wasn't true. Now I remember everything. I remember you, Xian. So it's interesting that there's a couple of motifs that keep reappearing in Ventus's and Roxas Sora specifically, and that's this notion of forgetting and knowing that there's something amiss that they can't quite place. Those seem to be universal amongst the 2 points of the triangle, I guess is what you'd say. So that's an interesting motif, because that would still imply that while they both have full bodies now, neither of them are whole. And that's interesting to me. Okay, let's see what Vanitas has to say. Okay. Vanitas, a being of pure darkness who spreads negative emotions. Vanitas is born from the darkness that Master Xehanort removes from Ventus's heart. In order to train Ventus as a being of light, he shatters his negative emotions throughout the world in the form of Unversed. He unites Ventus and obtains the Keyblade, albeit incomplete, but he loses to Ventus in a battle and disappears. Even after he's resurrected as a member of the real Organization 13, he targets the heart of his other half, Ventus, who sleeps within Sora. 3 years before Terra and Aqua's Mark of Mastery, the darkness Master Xehanort extracts from Vanitas takes the form of a person and is given the name Vanitas. When Master Xehanort asks him about Ventus, Vanitas gives a harsh assessment, despite the fact that Ventus is his other half. Vanitas visits Ventus in his room, urging him to follow the departing Terra and skillfully manipulates him into traveling into different worlds. Vanitas urges Ventus, who has grown as a component for the Keyblade, to unite with him and become a weapon. However, Ventus refuses, and Vanitas seems annoyed. Just as planned, Ventus defeats Vanitas, the two of them unite, and although incomplete, the Keyblade is created. With the overwhelmingly powerful Keyblade in hand, Ventus Vanitas shows complacency. However, a single blow from Aqua damages it. Vanitas' face looks like Sora's ? Vanitas was born from Ventus's heart, but his face resembles Sora's. When Sora's supplements Ventus's fractured heart, the part that broke off, Vanitas, influenced by this as well, his face becomes identical to Sora's. That's not... I will still maintain that that's not a good explanation. Because Sora was still in the ether at this point, still a baby with no fully formed face at this point. So, anyway. After Sora sees off Quasimodo, whose heart is now free, young Xehanort tells him, "Hypocrite, you're the one who has made your heart a prison." Vanitas' face next appears to young Xehanort's. Interesting. Vanitas meets Sora for the first time in Monstropolis, and Ventus, who's within Sora, reacts. Vanitas holds his Keyblade at the ready to extract Ventus' heart, but Sully and Mike prevent him from doing so. Vanitas mocks the discouraged Aqua after she reunites with Ventus, who is still sleeping. Laying her anger bare, Aqua challenges him to a fight, but he vanishes into a corridor of darkness as soon as he finds that he is disadvantaged. He tells Sora, who is shaken by the way Vanitas' face looks, "We are brothers who together make a greater whole." Vanitas states frankly that he has decided to be what he is, which is darkness, and then disappears. Vanitas tells Ventus he's coming home, but Vanitas objects. He laughs and says that they're not the same. Rather, he was just hidden inside Ventus for a long time. The reiteration that we are brothers together who make a greater whole. I fear that that's not actually going to be directly about Sora, but probably Roxas. Vanitas' story is pretty short. It's called Vanish into the Blue, which ties into what we know about the representation about darkness. So, empty creature from Ventus Riven. To you, the name Vanitas shall be given. What do you think I am to you? Who do you think I am? I am the darkness, and that's why you can all exist in the light, isn't that right? I am both of you, and not you. But you never imagined you had darkness inside you, huh? But darkness is everywhere. Look, even right there at your feet, your shadow. The stronger the light, the blacker the shadow becomes, and that shadow lurks at your feet. Right after I separated from you, I was left standing alone in the Badlands, in the place near the Keyblade graveyard. There was a faint traces of a battle. Right from the moment we separated, I knew how I came to exist. Because I was a massive darkness from a heart, a vessel for negative emotions. In the Badlands, with its fiercely blowing wind, I clenched my fist and closed my eyes at that feeling resembling pain. Then a black shadow emerged from behind me. When I looked up, the shadow's red eye just glowed, and then it turned into a monster. I stretched my hand towards it, and the monster pranced around me like a playful kitten. I swung my Keyblade down at the being, an unversed, that had just been born and was like me. The unversed vanished without a word. Unversed, meaning one who aren't well versed in life. What the heck does that actually mean? You and me both. Bro, you and me both. Whether there's a meaning to it or not has nothing to do with me. This monster was both me and not me. Hey, isn't that like me and you? I don't care which one's the real deal. I wonder how much negative emotion there is in the world. If you think anger and hatred are the only negative emotions out there, you're wrong. There's sadness, loneliness, unease, jealousy, anger. But they all feed into hatred. Feel hate, feel anger. Why not hate your own existence too while you're at it? You experienced it, didn't you? You hated yourself. I hated you, Ventus. And I tried to absorb you and then disappeared for a while. Was it you I hated? Or maybe it was me. It doesn't matter anymore. And I disappeared once. But now I'm back, being used by someone again. It seems like just forcing me to exist wasn't enough for Xehanort. I hate Xehanort. I hate Ventus. I hate all of the rest of you. I hate the whole world, and now I'm disappearing again. That's how I chose to live. But I don't need to know which is light and which is darkness. Not just light, not just darkness. We decide what we are. I lived it on my own terms. I came from the void and I'm returning to it. What's after the void? It's neither light nor darkness, more like an abyss. Good night, Ventus. Huh. Interesting. I say interesting because we have seen explicit kind of roots for what death looks like in Kingdom Hearts, right? If you have stuff that's unresolved, when you die, you end up in the final world. If your body and mind have perished. But if you're hanging on to stuff because stuff's unresolved, which is very much the case for Vanitas here, then ideally he should be ending up in the final world. Because a lot of the nameless stars who you interact with in 3 are all resisting something, right? And while there's a lot of talk about that kind of radical acceptance of I'm choosing to go back into the darkness, he's not really. Like, he's not really choosing. He was still being used as a tool, as a pawn, as a whatever. What's interesting now is the possibility of what happens to him now that Xehanort isn't there. Now that he's kind of let loose. Because his story was very much a post-mortem of the events of 3. And saying that all there is now is the abyss. When we also know that that's not true either. You know, birth by sleep, as it were. So there is good argument to be made here that Ventus will return or emerge back in later volumes as they are simply that loop is not closed. It's interesting that for Roxas, we don't really get a sense of his alignment in the same way we do with the stories for Ven and Vanitas, which is very much Ventus is minus darkness, Vanitas is minus light. Roxas is equally seems to be at that precipice of not remembering stuff that's important to him and is somewhere in the middle of both, neither light nor darkness. It's very representative of the roads, light, darkness in between, Twilight. Or more appropriately, I suppose, light, darkness, twilight, and dawn. But it would imply, the thing is, the series has a lot of 3s in its narrative. When we think about how the core groups all seem to be trios, But equally, at the same time, a lot of the most important stuff, the roads, etc., are 4s. Yet when we're choosing powers and stuff in the earlier games, those were 3s. And then we expand further into 3, where we're no longer choosing 3, we're now into 4s and 5s territories, where we're choosing memories. I feel like that there is something in this notion of forgetting and feeling incomplete, and what the opening of 3, it was trying to tell us with us not choosing powers, but choosing what we desire. And then asking if that is ultimately who we wish to be. Because we're not choosing what makes us strong, what progresses us, anything like that. We are choosing primarily what memories we want to take with us moving forward, which is the absence of what those 3 people get to choose, because they do not have that to go off. And there's probably something in that. It's just an interesting motif that keeps reappearing, specifically about forgetting. Like, it's always been interesting to me that they chose to name the DLC Remind. Because to remind is to remember something. With a semicolon in for RE mind, it is about the mind. You're responding to the mind. Which is very interesting in and of itself, because Kingdom Hearts has always been about hearts. It's not been about mind, memory, intention, intelligence. That's never really been, planning all of that heady sort of energy. It's always been about hearts and feeling and moving forward through where, may your heart be your guiding key. May your heart unlock the doors. May your heart be XYZ, right? So there is something in that trifecta that they're trying to illustrate to us that I don't feel like we have a lot of the answers to. Because I'm even thinking, I'm thinking through what we have from the character files specifically, and what I'm trying to recall from in-game. And I'm struggling to form the connections there that could make a good theory for this. This is more of a decent thought process of laying out the puzzle pieces and looking at it going, this is meant to be a 100 puzzle, and I have approximately 8 pieces. I don't think this is doable. So that might be where we leave it for this podcast. I'm not sure what we can construct from something like this in terms of a theory, except to point out that there does seem to be this triangle of memory and pulling from the different themes of light and darkness, because Vanitas' story doesn't really tell us a whole lot outside of the angst. It reminds me a lot of Larxine's, where they're not really telling us everything that the character knows. Like Larxine's story ends with, that's a secret. What am I talking about? Oh, that's a secret. So this feels very similar of Vanitas' angst is very Vanitas and very angsty, but it doesn't necessarily fill in the gap some more for everything that needs to go along with it. So I think that's where we'll leave it for this episode. This has been Thinking Through the Darkness, a Lore by Spec production with me, Spec. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me today. Just as a reminder, don't forget, if you haven't followed the Lore by Spec YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe. It's free there. If you haven't taken the time to review the podcast or dropped a like and a comment, those really help too. And if you ever feel inclined to help me keep the lights on over here, head to Ko-Fi, which is in my description, to help support the podcast. Once again, thank you all so very much for listening, and I will see you all next time.